The Broncos was without any of their quarterbacks. Whoa, really? Okay. Anyways, due to COVID, what did this past week tell you about like both the teams?
I mean, I don't think anyone came to this game expecting uh the Broncos to win because they are using a practice squad receiver as quarterback. And again, he played college, he played quarterback in college. Like I don't think that's enough to be able to sustain for a whole game. And like, look, respect to him for like taking on because it's not an easy thing to like be a starting suddenly become a starting quarterback when you haven't played quarterback in years. But I mean, the result is honestly kind of what was expected. He threw 1 for 9, 13 yards, 2 interceptions. Saints didn't even have like the best players that ended up being the Broncos. They wanted to go Taysom Hill and Latavius Murray, who had the leading rushing yards. It was like I'm not a Broncos fan, so like I can't speak for this, but it's a fan that if I was a Broncos fan, I would have just wanted this game to be postponed. I would just want or even forfeit this game because it's not something I will want to sit through and watch.
I mean, yeah, as a neutral, it's just very interesting to watch because you rarely see a situation like the one that presented itself on Sunday. But in 2020, in the year of COVID, anything's possible. So the fact that we saw Taysom Hill versus Kendall, that game was such a mess. But yeah,
Wait,
the Broncos, yeah,
the Broncos didn't have a quarterback?
no, they had a wide receiver that was
As
off
their
the practice
quarterback.
squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause-
wow. Okay. That's
Because it happened on
really
Thursday,
not
so they couldn't
ideal
sign
at all.
anyone else. Yeah, they had the NFL kind of didn't give them any options.
That's
Is it?
not.
Yeah,
Poor Broncos.
yeah. That game is less. It's less about the actual football game and more about what 2020 has been, and the
Yeah.
fact that we saw this in the NFL, and we now have Baltimore and Pittsburgh that were supposed to play last Thanksgiving. We previewed the game last Wednesday, talking about how we're excited for the game, and I'm pretty sure by 20 minutes later the game was postponed, and it still hasn't been played yet. It's supposed to go down this afternoon, but as a Ravens fan, I have to ask you: you're going to have RG3 starting at QB. You guys are in the middle of a playoff hunt. You're playing a very good Pittsburgh team, and the odds of you guys winning this game are slim to none, if we're being honest, simply because of the situation. Should they have postponed this game?
While you're talking about
Yes.
this, talk about how if they had like the worst breakout among all NFL
Yeah, I
players and
think
how
this has been
they fell
the
in that
worst
series
breakout.
playing, and it's with the COVID protocols
Yeah,
and
I'll
all
actually
that.
say that too.
Tennessee's was pretty bad, but I think the timing and the importance of the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game was a lot more important. I forget what Tennessee game was post. Was it Tennessee-Indianapolis early on in the season? Though was that the game? Tennessee-Indy. So obviously, I think less important at the time, and when you're looking at the Ravens season and the importance of every game for the Ravens. Yeah, how are you guys gonna fare against the Steelers today? Because Steelers undefeated, very good team. We know what they're about. So it's just it's a tough circumstance. So what would you have liked to seen as a Ravens fan, as this game 6 days later still hasn't been played?
Okay, you asked me like first or not I shouldn't postpone further, and I think yes, because and it's not only just because I don't know people will say, "Oh, it's because I'm a Ravens fan. I don't want to see his inner team face the Steelers," and yeah, of course that is the case. But in our case, is I'll speak more on the COVID terms. With things this bad, why would you let them face another team and risk spreading it further? First of all, and look, Ravens had the worst case in like breakout his in like I think amongst all NFL teams right now, and like it's kind of like sad because like we handled it for the first 2 months of the season very well. I think we were one of the lowest teams to actually receive anything, and I think it took like Steve Saunders, our conditioning coach, to kind of like be in a practice with his mask off, and everything kind of just like broke loose like since then. 11 players tested positive, 20 are on reserve.
11.
Yeah.
Wow.
10 staff have tested positive. And with things this bad, I don't understand why they aren't postponing this game further. It's not a question of I want to see Ravens lose with RG3 at quarterback. I want to see them play with Gus Edwards as our number one running back. It's not just simply that. It's so bad right now. I don't understand how this game is postponed. And people say, "Oh well, it's like any other injury, and since it's something we're living with, then we wouldn't postpone the game just for another injury. But this is not just like some injury. This isn't something where we could like
Yeah.
if you we're injured like to a torn ACL, you don't spread that to our players. COVID, you do.
Yeah, I think
And
it's
Not risking
yeah,
other people.
that's a great point. Yeah, COVID. I think that the NFL. We obviously know the NFL is trying to keep a schedule, and they're not trying to get backtracked because they want the season to finish. But I think the most ideal situation would have been is if they would have just left an extra week at the end of the year this year,
Yeah.
and they could have played
They should
any
have done
games that got postponed or any games that couldn't be played on a Sunday. Then again, like you don't know if COVID is going to be back. It's a bad situation. The NFL, I kind of understand the perspective of they want to finish the games on time and kind of adhere to their schedule because they've never, like the NFL has always been, Sunday, Monday, once a week because football is a very physically taxing sport. We know that there's a lot of injuries and there needs to be a lot of recovery time.
Haven't they already played a Tuesday game or something?
Yeah, but we're talking about this year. We're talking about like in general. They have their 1 day a week. They play once a week, and the NFL is schedule oriented because of how physically demanding the sport is, and the fact that you need that week of rest is crucial. When you are playing week in week out. So I understand why they're trying to go along with the game. I think they could have probably pushed it back a week at the end of the year and played that game when they knew everyone was healthy and not, full of COVID. So that's going to be the interesting talking point regarding what happens in today's game because we're 90% sure we know that Pittsburgh is going to come away with a victory.
Yeah, like I'm not expecting this game to like win for like a surprise. I'm not expecting the Ravens to surprise in this game. We're missing Lamar Jackson, and like despite everything you say about Lamar Jackson, Evan, he is our number one quarterback and would be the reason why.
I'm not. You guys would be much better with Lamar Jackson today than you would be with RG3. It's like it's not.
It's not given. That's not like any take or anything. That like
it's not like it's not a shock to say Lamar Jackson is a better QB than RG3 because he has a bigger impact.
Are people playing who are positive?
No. They can't test positive before the game, so they'll be cleared. Yeah, they have to be cleared before they step on the field. That is why
that makes sense.
That's why we're missing 20 people now because 11 people got test positive and now 10 are like just on reserve. So 20 people are out this game.
What does on reserve mean?
It just means that they're like either being tested or they have another long-term injury, so they're just like being like sit out. So like it's because we already had a lot of injuries as well that weren't COVID related. So like all of this together is just Ravens aren't looking good, and honestly,
not ideal.
Yeah, I'm not even hoping for the playoffs right now. I'm just hoping that this team comes back like healthy next season. Like at this point, especially since I'm worried about Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is type 1 diabetic, and I think Aviva, like how much worse.
Does he have it?
Mark Andrews, yeah, starting tight end.
Mark Andrews.
He was positive. It's gonna take. The thing with him is he'll be fine. It's probably gonna take him longer to come back though, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
It's because it's
Mark Andrews.
With diabetes, you're already fighting off something else. It hits you a little bit harder, but it also just takes a lot longer to come back.
And to talk about impact,
but it's just like, okay, great. So everybody else will be over in 2 weeks. I'll see you in 4.
Yeah. Also, when you're talking about impact on the Baltimore Ravens and importance, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, the chemistry and the amount of yards, the amount of catches, like they kind of put together on a weekly basis, a huge loss because no one else in the Ravens passing attack has proven that they could consistently play well week in, week out. Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson are the only two guys that have any chemistry on that Baltimore team regarding that passing attack. So again, big loss to not a Mark Andrews because Mark Andrews runs that offense's passing game. There's no one else this year, unless you've seen something that I've missed.
No, I agree with you on that, and I think I've talked about like we talked early in the year, like how I believe that Marquise Brown has talent as a receiver, but this year, I think it shows that both him and Lamar have room to grow, and I think they're not the right quarterback and receiver tandem to help each other get better as a quarterback receiver.
I don't like that statement. If we're being honest, the only good game I remember from Hollywood Brown was that week 1 last year against Miami when Baltimore blew the doors off them.
Yeah.
That's the only game I actually remembered where he played really well and had he had 2 touchdowns and kind of people were hyped on Baltimore. And then the rest of the year, he didn't really do much. And then we talked about him this year, what can he do? And the whole year, I've seen him do nothing. I can't remember a good game from him. So I think everyone in the NFL has talent. There's no, to be in the league, there's no doubt you have talent. The question is, what are you going to do against the other talented guys? And I think Hollywood Brown doesn't have a career in the NFL. If Baltimore can replace him, there's a lot of guys out there that can do just as good as Hollywood Brown because he's done nothing. So if you could find any guy up anywhere that could catch a ball, they've done more than Hollywood Brown is this year. That's not being disrespectful. That's a fact of what we've seen from him.
No, that's not disrespectful. Like, this year proves that he doesn't have what it takes to be the number 1 guy on Baltimore. And I think that's why Mark Andrews was our number 1 weapon throughout the whole season. But like, I think we're going off topic. Let's go back to the COVID thing. And like, there's been a lot of reports that they're investigating how well Ravens have been handling this situation. Like how if they broke proper code protocols and all that.
I mean, I'm sure every team has broken some sort of protocol this year. The question is, how badly has COVID affected some of the teams? And we've seen a few outbreaks, but hopefully there's not too many more after the Baltimore Ravens, because it's important that football kind of remains and kind of sticks to a schedule that they don't have to alter too much, because then it's going to start affecting the overall play on the field.